Darrell, if you could just give us your thoughts on the unchanged 21-man squad. Is that pretty much, was there anyone knocking on the door, anyone close to forcing their way in this week?
No, I just felt, what we did last week was pretty good. So you don't really change too much about that. I mean, I know some teams would be resting at the moment. I don't see that for us, to be honest. I think we've had a couple of weeks off not long down the track. So I think we want to sort of get a bit of momentum about us. So it's important that we do that with personnel and so yeah, no, I just decided to stay with the same.
Seth Nicotimo was struggling last week. He was forced off. What's the situation with him? Has he got potential to feature?
Uh, yeah, I think he'll be fine. He's trained all week, so um, managing his pain, I reckon. He was all right. He's fine. He had a little bit of something there, but nothing major, so he'll be good.
It did look quite bad at the time, didn't it? Is that a surprise that he's in a position actually to play this week?
Yeah, he was hobbling around a bit, but I think it was more just the instant surprise of getting the sort of roll of the ankle, and it's an injury, he's an ankle that he's had a bit of trouble with before, so it's more that than anything else. He's good.
I mean, how do you check if he is fit? How do you even think about changing the team that put that sort of performance in last week? Is it fair to say you're probably going with the same 17?
Yeah, well, it'd be yeah, unless something happens, then we'd go with the same 17. I think boys were good, played well. We've trained well this week. Pretty light-ish week, to be honest. So no, we're just looking forward to it. I think great opportunity for us, and we want to be good enough to take it. We've had a reminder of not turning up in our best mental state a couple of weeks back, and it's all about us getting our mental frame in the right place and coming up with an outstanding performance. So there's no thoughts of anything other than completely respecting the game and Salford. They've been pretty close. They beat Warrington. They were a point away from beating Catalan, and then they were 8-4 ahead last week with not long to go. So look, we're not going there thinking anything other than our best performance. That is 100% what we need to do.
Noah High was set to make his Super League debut, wasn't he, at Salford a few weeks ago before that game was cancelled. Did that enter your thoughts at all ahead of this one?
Yeah, we had a little bit of a chat about Noah, um, but I just think the way the season's gone for us, and particularly the back end after we had that period off, um, I'm just going with what we've got, staying tuned in, keeping players tuned in, players playing well, getting some sort of string of performances behind us, and that for me that's the most important thing. I don't at this moment in time. I don't think it's about giving anybody an opportunity there. I just think it's getting our players and our team tuned in for what could be ahead for us if we get this right.
We're speaking on Thursday, so Hull play tonight. You play the 24 hours after, which seems absolutely bizarre. Um, how tuned in will you be to what's happening tonight, and do you expect it to be a meaningful fixture for you on Friday?
Oh, well, you don't know, do you? I think it's meaningful anyway. I think you don't go into any fixture and it not being meaningful. So it's a big game for us to whatever happens. I mean, obviously, what happens tonight happens. Nothing we can do about that. What we can do is keep ourselves tuned in because whichever way it's in our hands, doesn't matter what happens tonight. It's irrelevant in lots of ways. Obviously relevant if we'll lose that game, and Catalan were pretty good last week, so. We'll see on that. Ultimately, we want to be in a groove. We want to be playing well, and that's all that matters really. So, no, none of the other things that surround it are really important to us because it's in our hands. We're not waiting for anything else.
Obviously, it is in your hands. You've got the potential to seal a playoff spot for the first time since 2012, which seems quite remarkable, isn't it? What would that mean to the group coming so soon after coming back into Super League?
Well, I think it'd be. a pretty big stepping stone, to be honest. I mean, we came out of the champ last year. We got sort of slated at big outsiders, tipped to finish bottom of the table. And we've used all of those motivation things to give ourselves a chance to be in the playoffs, and we're on the cusp of it now, and a great opportunity for us to go and challenge everybody. I mean, we've beaten Lee away, we've beaten Leeds away, we've beaten everybody apart from St Helens in the top, top six. So, for us, is just go and do what we can to be the best we can be, and if we do that, then we're pretty close, I think, and it was a good opportunity for us to really go and challenge everybody and challenge the bookmakers and challenge our own thinking at times, of what we can do. And I think that's important that we don't set any sort of boundaries on that. We go and be the best we can be over this last period of the season, and then it'll end up where it ends up. But the boys have been class. I think the club's been outstanding the way we've come back in, how we've put games on, how hard we've worked, how we've just gone and been ourselves and played our way. Uh, and there's been some bumps, but I mean, we've lost a lot of tight games. I mean, it could easily have been, we could have been nailed on in the six now. But look, I think we've learned some great lessons along the way, in tight games and all sorts about individual players and coaching staff. And yeah, it's just been such a quality journey this year that sets us up for what we're going to do over years to come. But obviously, we're live in this year and we're really enjoying being part of the challenge.
Just lastly for me for now, when we spoke right at the start of this season at that launch in Manchester, I think it was, you were you felt this was possible. You felt this. What did you know at that point that pundits and outsiders didn't know about Wakefield or about that group?
Well, the players really. So, because you watch players play, but you don't really know them, and we know them, deeply. We obviously we felt like we'd recruited well, for the championship, and we were confident that those players could play Super League, but nobody really knew them. Nobody knew people like Kai really, and Caleb and Isaiah Vangana, and then we signed Caius, and he's done great. Young Harvey's stepped up and been phenomenal, and then we've got the group of senior players. So it was more that knowledge of, obviously I'm watching pre-season and seeing what the boys are doing and how hard they're working. And then I think we've got a really solid, talented coaching team that works hard to get the best out of the boys. So I just think the whole package, alongside having owners who are doing what they're doing here, then you know that it's going to be a good year. I felt like it was going to be a good year. I wasn't sure how good, but and we're still not sure how good until we see what we can do.
Just lastly, you mentioned Caleb. Has he got any possibility of featuring next week?
Yeah, we were hopeful that he would, but he's had a couple of bits. So he got a calf injury that was pretty serious, and then he had his shoulder. So while he was off on that, he's had his shoulder operated on to release the nerve. It would be a risk, and I think it'd be hard for him to, the way the boys are at the moment, unless something happens to us. I think it'd be hard for him to get in there.
You've referenced the bookmaker odds a fair bit this season, and they haven't dropped by much, have they? Even though you're on the cusp of going qualifying for the playoffs, I think you're 66 to 1. You can make them look a bit daft, couldn't you? Go in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't dropped at all. 100 to 1 I've seen, 6 to 1. So yeah, being written off still, and I see why. I've got a problem with them. I just think, you get every scrap you can of motivation, and I don't know whether it's had an impact on the players, but I think it's great when people do that, and you go, all right, well, let's see how good we can be. Then there's all sorts of little bits of motivation. When it's individual players, or it's people writing you off, or it's what you're playing for, your teammates, and I think we've grabbed hold of all of them this year and used them at different times.
Yeah. So you don't go into the playoffs with nothing to lose, but in terms of the outside expectations, no one's expecting anything from you, so you can just go in there and do what you've been doing all year and express yourself.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I don't think there's any pressure on us. I mean, obviously we've got to get there first, and we need to play well tomorrow night. But if we do get there and we get an opportunity, then we we'll get after it for sure. No, I don't think there'll be any pressure on us. I think pressure will be on anybody that plays us, to be honest.
And regardless of what happens over the next few weeks, I guess you've got a really strong base to build on for next season and beyond, and you've got a clear path and an example of what can happen with Lee and their gradual improvement, who you could play next week.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, if you look longer term, you look at OKR, and you know they've sort of come from a similar position, and they've been building for a number of years, and that's what we're after. Yeah, that's a trajectory that we feel like we're on. Started at something pretty special, or what we will believe will be something pretty special, and you know it's a great story in rugby league, I think. So you need great stories. That's what makes it so exciting.
And you see that same potential that Hull Care have fulfilled in Wakefield.
Yeah, I don't see why not. You know, I think we're filling out our stadium. The stadium's getting developed. You know, the plans for training ground down the track. You know, all those things. Yeah, just show that the club's going places, and you know, it's just a matter of time, really. And how quick we get there, I don't know, but you know, I think this year's given us a great foundation, as you mentioned, to sets us up for what's to come in the next few years.
If the result goes for you tonight, will you be saying to the lads, you know, think about next week, take it easy when you go out there, or will you go out with the same mentality as you normally would?
Yeah, just the same. I think, you know, we're talking about momentum, really, and that's key for us. You know, I think just get some consistency of what we're doing. Don't really. I don't think it matters what happens tonight for us performance wise. I think it's important that we're feeling good about ourselves if that does happen going into the week after. So yeah, just put your foot down. I think it's important we put our foot down on the game.